Carthage was a Phoenician city-state on the coast of North Africa, site of modern Tunis, which, prior to the conflict with Rome known as the Punic Wars 264 to 146 BC, was the largest, most prosperous, and powerful political entity in the Mediterranean. The city was originally known as the Carthage New City, to distinguish it from the older nearby Phoenician city of Utica. The Greeks called the city Carchedon and the Romans changed this name to Carthage. Founded c. 814 BC by the legendary Phoenician queen Dido, grew in size with refugees from the city of Tyre following the conquest of Alexander the Great in 332 BC, and was later expanded to become the center of the Carthaginian Empire with colonies such as Sabratha along the coast of North Africa, in Sicily, Spain, and at another place. This would all be lost after the Punic Wars, which elevated Rome to its former position in Carthage as the greatest Mediterranean power. One. Brief history. The history of ancient cities is usually divided into 5 periods. Ancient Carthage, Punic Republic c. 814 to 146 BC, Roman Carthage 146 BC 439 AD, Carthage of destroyers 439 534 CE, Byzantine Carthage, Exarchate of Africa 534 to 698 AD, Carthage of Muslim Arabs, Carthage of Islam 698-1270 AD. Due to space limitations, this article will mainly focus on ancient Carthage, Punic Republic. In 698 AD, the city was conquered during the Arab-Muslim invasion of North Africa and destroyed. It would be rebuilt, albeit on a modest scale compared to the city at its height, until it was completely destroyed under the reign of Muhammad I al-Mustansir r. 1228-1277 AD, after defeating the invasion of Christian Europe during the Eighth Crusade of 1270 AD. Would continue to be inhabited, although the ancient ruins were neglected until the 1830s AD when modern excavations began. The government of Carthage, formerly a monarchy, was a republic based on a meritocracy elite government in the 4th century BC. The top position is held by 2 elected judges known as suffets judges, who rule together with a 200 to 300 member Senate who holds the position for life. The law is passed by a citizen assembly which will vote on measures proposed by the suffets and the Senate. The nobles lived in palaces, the less prosperous in simple but attractive houses, and the lower classes in apartments or huts outside the city. Two. City defense. The town has 4 residential sections, growing around the central Bursa fortress, and is surrounded by a wall that stretches 23 miles 37 kilometers from the port inland. It has all the accommodations and refinements of any ancient city: theaters for entertainment, temples for religious celebrations, cemeteries, agora markets, but on a much grander scale. His patron deity was the goddess of love and fertility, Tanit, who was worshipped with his consort Baal Hamon. It is possible that children were sacrificed to the Tanit in the sacred area known as Tophet, but this claim has been challenged, and it is more likely that Tophet of Carthage was simply a cemetery reserved for infants and young people. Three. Innovation and wealth. The city's wealth was not only due to its advantageous position on the North African coast, from which it could control sea traffic between itself and its Sicilian colony, but also to the skills of its people in agriculture. Author Mago of Carthage, date unknown, wrote a work of 28 volumes dedicated to agriculture and veterinary science, which was considered the most comprehensive on the subject of his time and reflected the Carthage's strong interest in agriculture and animal husbandry. Maget's work was considered so important that it was among the few that would be saved by the Romans after Carthage's final defeat in 146 BC. Roman references to books are now all that's left of them. The Carthaginians planted fruit trees, grapes, olive trees, and vegetables in garden circles irrigated by small canals and then expanded their cultivation beyond the city walls to grain fields. The fertility of the land, and their expertise in cultivation, increased the wealth of the city through trade with the interior as well as maritime trade elsewhere as Carthage continued to develop. Four. Conflict. In 310 to 307 BC, North Africa was invaded by Agathocles of Syracuse r. 317 to 289 BC, who sought to conquer Carthage and use his wealth to fund his wars. Agathocles could easily feed his troops from the ground because plants grew in abundance. He was only defeated because the Libyans and Berbers, who worked the land, sided with the Carthaginians who had treated them well. Agathocles was expelled from North Africa and Carthage continued to prosper until it came into conflict with Rome, then just a small city-state on the Tiber River in Italy, in 264 BC. This conflict would become known as the Punic Wars from the Phoenician word for Carthage given in Greek as Phoenix and in Latin as Punicus. When Rome was weaker than Carthage, they did not pose a threat. The Carthaginian navy had long been able to enforce treaties that prevented the Roman Republic from trading in the western Mediterranean. However, when the First Punic War 264 to 241 BCE began, Rome proved far more resourceful than Carthage could have imagined. Although they had no navy and knew nothing about naval combat, the Romans quickly built 330 ships equipped with clever ramps and passageways corvus that could be lowered onto enemy ships and secured, thus turning a naval battle into a land battle. After an initial struggle with military tactics, Rome won a series of victories and finally defeated Carthage in 241 BC. Carthage was forced to cede Sicily to Rome and pay heavy war damages. A Roman embassy to Carthage submitted a list of demands that included the provision that Carthage be dismantled and then rebuilt further inland, thus negating the long-recognized gains in trade from its position on the coast. The Carthaginians, understandably, refused to do so and the Third Punic War 149 to 146 BCE began. A modern myth has developed that Roman troops then sprinkled the ruins with salt so that nothing would grow there again, but this claim has no basis in fact. It is said that Scipio Aemilianus wept when he ordered the destruction of the city and behaved well towards the survivors of the siege. Now the site of the ancient city continues to be inhabited and is included in the territory that the Ottoman Empire 1299–1922 AD had no interest in excavating the ruins. Stones from collapsed houses, temples, and walls were transported for private or administrative building projects or left where they were found. Modern archaeological excavations began in the 1830s CE through the efforts of the Danish consulate and continued under France between c. 1860–1900 AD. Further work on the site was carried out throughout the first part of the 20th century, but, as at Sabratha and other sites, archaeologists were more interested in the Roman history of Carthage. The political and cultural zeitgeist of the time defined Carthage, who were Semites, as people of little value, and anti-Semitism significantly influenced not only the interpretation of physical evidence but also the choice of what to keep in museums or dispose of. The history of the ancient Carthage period, therefore, suffers as much from these modern excavations as from the destruction of the city by Rome or later conflicts. Only after World War II would systematic and impartial work in Carthage begin, a paradigm consistent with the excavation and interpretation of many other ancient sites. Carthage is still in ruins in modern-day Tunisia and remains an important tourist attraction and archaeological site. The outlines of the Great Harbour can still be seen as well as the ruins of houses, public baths, temples and palaces since the city of Carthage ruled the Mediterranean as the most luxurious gem on the North African coast. That's 5 brief history of the Kingdom of Carthage quoted from worldhistory.org. Hope it is useful. Thank you.